The state of Massachusetts, if this US state decided to get really, really long. Not only long, but also taller. How'd they get Maine? The most famous city in Massachusetts, Boston. Boston is still here, but they've also stolen away other cities like Albany, New York. Don't forget Detroit and Michigan, also Grand Rapids, taking cities away from Wisconsin. How dare you? Plymouth and Ortiz City, Sioux Falls. We just keep going and going. Casper, are you going all the way out to Seattle? They get West Portland. It's not Seattle, but yeah, Seattle's up here. Close. Wait, on a proper globe map, does the state of Massachusetts only stretch out to where Oregon is today? Why does it feel mentally like it would actually be way higher than that? I mean, I guess to be fair, even on flat maps, you can see like latitude-wise, it's just in Oregon. Oh, Massachusetts. I was like, why did they change the spelling? I at first thought with the V, did it randomly adopt some sort of Slavic language or something? Megachusetts mentioned. I have no idea why, but for some reason there already is a Megachusetts subreddit. I appreciate the Chusetts city name translations. I didn't even realize that. Plymouth becomes Plymouth. What? Oh, Caspra. I'm just waiting for the inevitable Mass Falls. Becaville. I've got such a terrible Bostonian accent. West Portland. I'm not even hitting. Okay, I just need to shut up. These name translations are pretty great though. It does kind of feel like Massachusetts just kind of stole Virginia's homework though. No, but originally Massachusetts did in fact have what is modern day Maine, but it was still also called the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Also, a lot of the original 13 colonies had very long boundary borders. This is so disrespectful to the thousands of brave guerrilla soldiers who died in a decade-long struggle for Maine's independence. Maine is a geographic concept. If you think about it, a push to form just a giant New England state up there is probably just Massachusetts propaganda. They would come out as probably the de facto leaders here. I'd be careful with this whole thing. We might end up having ourselves a Yugoslavia in America. The night of 7 Americas. How the United States collapsed for 3 hours due to mass mind control and paranoia. Oh, we're actually coming up on this date. This reminded me of COVID. We've got the Pacific states forming a Sacramento government, as I guess the federal government is just gone. The event did not affect Hawaii and Alaska. Nice, so that's why they're not on this map. They were thought about though. The United States has been infiltrated. They're everywhere. Stay in the safe zone. Protect yourself. Oh, so this is actually more like a purge scenario. There's just like no rule of law for a certain amount of time. Interesting that Washington took the panhandle from Idaho but lost this part from Oregon. The Denver government controlled these states. The Des Moines government, are we sure everyone's gonna be chill with Iowa leading you guys? There had to have been some competing forces therefore. The Austin government, oh, there's no way. I don't know if these states would, I don't think they have a choice. I'm just laughing at, there is definitely people in this region that's like, no, hell no, oh, hell no. The Atlanta government getting the rest of the Deep South all the way up to West Virginia, and then the Albany government. Whole lot of casualties. This could have been caused by Russian and Chinese interference, might be a prank or a hoax, could be cyber attack, or even aliens possibly. It was only a short-lived time. They have reorganized the United States. Don't forget that mass hysteria has already affected the US in our history, well, in multiple events, but I'm thinking of specifically just one. In the War of the Worlds radio drama narrated by Orson Welles, this episode broadcasted over radio waves is infamous for inciting a panic by convincing members of the listening audience that there was a Martian invasion taking place. Obviously, none of this happened. People were just freaking out. I feel like this whole event really just goes to show how panicked the public was, especially in 1938. It's almost like the people could feel a second world war looming. Meanwhile, Alaska and Hawaii in this scenario, yeah, they just chilling. How do people come up with bizarre but freaking awesome poop like this? Ah, it's the tism. It's just a prank, bro. Speaking of like panic that actually did cause a lot of damage, make me think of like Hawaii when those nuclear detection things went off. Imagine just getting this notification on your phone. How insane is that? America, Earth's only supercontinent. Or basically, if the New World was actually just South America. What's very interesting about this scenario is that human beings actually end up finding the New World way earlier. Europeans stumbled upon the continent before the 1200s. I'm actually getting terrified just to think about how massive these Andes mountains are. I mean, this mountain range is already extremely impressive, but now just imagine them going twice as far and twice as tall. Is it safe to say this new range would be taller than the Himalayas? Also, another thing I find fascinating is we probably do not have the Amazon rainforest here. It's just too cold for something that tropical. Everything's just frozen over. Maybe it's like a massive forest though. You kind of need to be located on the equator to do like tropical rainforest. Aw, sad British noises. Where are the Falkland Islands? So clearly in this universe, the Vikings were still the first people to find the New World, judging by that name here. I still feel like they would have probably probably just left this area though. It's just cold and barren. Oh, did this massive landmass destroy the Sahara Desert? There seems to be a lot more green over here than I'm used to. And this is exactly how some of the first humans entered this continent. There's still a land bridge over this way, leading to what looks to be a frozen Colombia. Andes are now officially insane. Talk about the bad ending. Officially, the world is now all Brazil. Oh my god! World demographics, 43% men and women, 57% undercover cops on motorcycles. I'm just wondering, did the Incan civilization get even bigger in this universe? Imagine Machu Picchu, but they built it like Dubai. That would be pretty crazy if we just found one giant supercontinent over there. I guess in a way, North and South America together are kind of a giant supercontinent. Empires in exile, the so-called European Union. That doesn't look like Europe to me. I don't know what happened, but Germany, what did you do? Clearly, this new European Union is being led by the French Empire and British empires, but what brought them into this exile? So the English have their sides that they had historically. There's Egypt, there's Sudan, there's Kenya, the one who shall not be named. But we also have the Belgians here in Africa and the German Republic. Spain had African colonies at one point. Of course, South Africa, the Italians are in Africa. How did Turkey get in there? Here is the flag of the European Union that is in exile in Africa. There's only a couple of spots that don't seem to be in this union, just like the actual European Union in our universe. I don't believe they ever got Ethiopia to join. Also Liberia, because that's an American colony basically. Guinea and maybe a couple others, maybe the Libyan Arab Republic. I think the whole Horn of Africa has been left out. Disputed between Sudan, Ethiopia, Somaliland. Also, Portugal hasn't decided to join just yet. It's funny how I don't know if Germany did anything back in Europe, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of a force of habit. Oh, I think it might actually have been the USSR, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. We've got Yugoslavia here, so this is a Cold War, a United Communist Germany. This looks like a Communist France. English Republic, Ireland's been freed. There still are democratic forces in this continent, but not very many. D-Day failed, causing the Soviet advance to reach France. A few months later, after World War II, Western Europe was swept by socialist revolutions, and the European governments fled to colonies in Africa, establishing the EU there. This doesn't seem that crazy. You can see logically how we got to this point. I'm assuming after the socialists took over in Europe, there was a mass flight to Africa, which allows the colonial powers to maintain their control. Also, US doesn't want to push for decolonization. Apartheid 2, Electric Boogaloo. Which will collapse first? The European governments in Africa or the Union of Socialist Republic? I'm going to assume the Africa part, but I don't know. It's interesting because there were plenty of governments that were in exile during World War II, and a lot of them were in Africa. The biggest one obviously being Free France here, but the Greeks were in Cairo. What if the island of Taiwan was actually slightly larger? And this is definitely sending me down a rabbit hole why they didn't get this island too. Well, I feel like I can kind of figure out why, but it is interesting. It doesn't seem that far-fetched for the nationalist Chinese to have gotten both islands, not just this one. Well, they actually don't just have this one. They've got plenty of small islands just off mainland China. Interestingly, there was a period where the nationalist Chinese did have the Hainan Island. Well, they also had Tibet, but that was inevitably going to fall. So they kept Taiwan, but they did lose this island. So all they had to do is not lose this battle. The communists secured Hainan's southern cities by the end of the month and declared victory on May 1st. Maybe this whole thing really isn't that far-fetched. We have one Taiwan, but what about second Taiwan? I love how the PRC now has no island in this picture, so that means that the South Chinese Sea is full of islands built by Taiwan. Hong Kong will 100% trigger a PRC invasion. Oh yeah, in this map it shows the Republican Chinese, they have that. Also Macau. This is supposed to be British and then Portuguese controlled. Macau was also given back to China in the 1990s. Basically a world where the KMT knows how to handle guerrillas. Geographically fascinating map. Having been to Hong Kong pre-1997, it is fascinating to see part of Taiwan on this map. They actually almost held on to Hainan. It was really close. It'd be a very different world we'd be living in. Thank you for sending me down this rabbit hole. A map of Europe if Napoleon hadn't invaded Russia. I think it's fair to say he'd probably go down by far as the best leader in history then. Invading Russia was one of his only mistakes, but also probably his worst. The Russian Empire would still definitely be here, but so would the massive French Empire in continental Europe. Judging by these white lines, they look absolutely huge. He of course still controls Iberia, even though Spain is essentially his Vietnam at this time. Pretty brutal part of the whole Napoleonic Wars. There's French Algeria, as well as Tunisia. Morocco's chilling. Did Morocco really have just a red flag back in those days? Definitely at one point in their history they did. What is up with North Africa and just loving to sport just a solid color flag? The Libyans did it too, just so creative. So the British would be pissed. Also because they're dealing with Irish rebels. Maybe there's still a chance that the Brits and Russians can work together, well, along with the Ottomans, but I don't know. It seems like Napoleon's starting to get really out of control. Also because he basically has vassalized all the Scandinavian countries. Oh, mind you, this is a map of Europe in 1850, decades after Napoleon had already been defeated in our world. Napoleon probably isn't even alive in this universe. He's been long dead. I doubt he would have made it to almost 80 years old. Remember, at his peak in our universe, this is what he had. So he just retains that, but also gets a little bit extra. Is Napoleon gay for Alexander? He reportedly wrote to his wife, "If Alexander was a woman, I would make him my mistress." Oh, but this Alexander he was talking about the Russian leader at the time, not Alexander the Great. That's apparently how handsome this man actually was. I gotta be honest, I don't see it. No sea access for Poland. Sorry, Poland. You're basically in our world, Bosnia, and Prussia is Croatia. This map is great, but honestly, I can't see France holding on to Spain. That's a good point. There's definitely a discussion to be had there. Awesome map. Always love these maps. As always, big ol' thanks to the patrons. Drew's Argentinian Trust Fund. Rip, Grandpa. I will force Drew to eat Spanish food unless he remembers Imperial and modern Japan have the same flag. Alexander the Terrible. Connor Pavlik. DOOCHBAGGINS. Fredrik Tibblin. KingBearHaze. LuxembourgLover. NordTyrol. the Go. Tambre. Check that link down below if you want your name here.